Hi, everybody. My name is Weldon Hastings, and today we're going to be navigating the internet safely. We want to protect you in the digital world. And today we're going to be covering some basic browsing practices. And let me just move one of my screens over and we can get started. All right, so first thing we're going to cover is what is internet safety?
If you're watching this right now, my powers of deduction tell me that there's about a 100.
Before I continue, I just want to make sure if you can't hear or if there's any problem, please open the chat window and let me know. If everybody can hear, fantastic. I'll keep it going. Okay, got a thumbs up, so we're good. Here we go.
100% chance that you use the internet. I'm so smart. Thanks for logging on to YouTube today and checking out Wellcast. We're super glad you're here. And since you've already conveniently placed yourself online, we're going to talk to you today about internet safety. Now, wait a minute. Okay, before you roll your eyes and say, my mom told me all about internet safety already, or my surf instructor explained to me the dangers of leaving information on the internet. Just hear me out, all right? We spend a lot of time on the internet here at Wellcast, and we give pretty awesome advice. I think you'll agree. So today we're going to give you our top 4 things that you absolutely need to know about internet safety. Are you ready? Tip 1, the internet is forever, ever. That was all in-house. No joke. Anything that you put on the internet, no matter how old, could be there until you have grandchildren of your own who will be Googling you. I mean, if Google is even still a thing in 40 years, who knows? Maybe Bing can make a great comeback. So what do? Well, start by Googling your name, phone number, your address, just to find out what's really floating around out there. Plus, it's kind of fun. If you're on social media, and who isn't, use the strictest privacy settings out there. Tip 2, don't put personal information online. 73% of teens and 68% of young adults are on social networking sites. Of those people, roughly half post personal information, phone numbers, addresses, emails. Don't do that. If you do, it leaves you open for attacks from either cyberbullies or just some weird folks who want to take advantage of you. Do yourself a favor and ask a trusted friend what private information they can see on your sites. If you're not happy with the answer, remove it. Tip 3, don't forget about smartphone safety. In an era of smartphones, cyber safety should extend to your phone too, especially when it comes to tech safety. Remember how your parents warned you about accepting car rides from strangers? All right, don't accept phone calls or texts from strangers either. Only answer texts and phone calls from your contact list. Tip 4, handle hacking intelligently. Part of being a member of the World Wide Web is being aware that no matter how careful you are, your account may get hacked. Getting hacked sucks, but it isn't the end of the world. And there are a few important things to do when you get hacked to ensure your safety. A, change that password and make the new one secure. Make it unbreakable. According to a CBS article, password was the most popular password of 2012, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. People, we can do better than this. If you're really going for all-out cyber safety, and you should, check to see if your email service provides 2-step verification. It's not impossible, but that is a hard nut to crack. B, check your sent box and let any affected people know that you were spammed, especially if your account sent out a phishing link. Your friends deserve to know what's up. C, do a sweep of your computer with antivirus software. All right, odds are, not only did you send something nasty out to your friends, you might have something nasty lurking in the recesses of your hard drive. D, back up your files. If there's a virus your computer doesn't catch, you don't want to lose everything. Okay, backing up files is totally a chore, but you'll be really happy you did it. Go ahead and invest in a cheap portable hard drive and keep it somewhere safe. To recap, remember these points. 1, anything you put on the internet will be there for a very long time. Believe me, I've thought a lot about this. 2, Your personal information shouldn't be visible to everybody. 3, do not accept phone calls or texts from strange numbers. And 4, if you're hacked, change your password, check that sent box, and clean off your hard drive ASAP.
All right, so with that being said, I want to share two things that I've encountered. One, like you, I too have my credit or debit card, and you'll notice the little silver chip right here. And then inside some of these cards, you have what's called a near field chip, which is not this. This is actually a contact chip, but a near field chip is when you go into the gas station and you see the credit card swiper that you can tap to pay. That's built into a lot of these cards nowadays. And those near field chips, and that exists in your cell phone, but it's not as open if you don't have it set up. But with these cards, if somebody comes up next to you and bumps into you, they may have something called a flipper in their pocket. And what a flipper is it's a small electronic device, about half the size of a cell phone, and it can actually steal the digital signature from your credit card and be reused. It can actually steal your car. It can steal, if you have one of those little fobs that you use to get into a door, they're like access fobs or access cards. It can steal all that information. And all it would take is somebody outside of the field bumping into you and stepping outside of that field, which is about a foot away. So, this isn't just all cybersecurity. This also entails common sense security. And the other thing that's very frustrating, and I'll tell you a personal experience, is my identity. I got one of those. I was compromised letters yesterday from, I forgot who it was from. But don't think that because I'm the IT guy, I haven't ever been compromised, that I've never been infected with a virus, that my computer doesn't work right. I had a 2-hour-long battle with my computer today. So don't think I've never been scammed by a phone person. Sometimes they kind of rely on the stress of the day and the heat of the day, and you're in the middle of dealing with whatever your stresses are, and you get that spam call and you pick it up and, oh man, I forgot to pay my cable bill or my phone bill or my electric bill or whatever. And then they kind of were like, well, they're verifying information, and you're correcting the information, and in actuality, you're not correcting information, you're giving them information. So it is important to be very cautious of what you're doing when it comes to credit card information and browsing the internet. We're going to get into more of that right now. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. And we'll move on. So why does internet safety matter? Again, cyber crimes, data breaches, internet and identity theft incidents are definitely on the rise. Everything's digital. I mean, you can't hack cash, but you can sure hack an Apple card, and you can hack the credit card that's sitting here. So it is definitely becoming more of an issue. Some of the 2022 statistics: thousands of data breaches occurred annually, affecting billions of records. This number has been increasing annually. Like I said, I had a data breach. Everybody's aware of the Experian data breach. The credit bureau that had a data breach a few years back. Noticeable breaches from the past includes Yahoo, Equifax, Marriott. These breaches have exposed quite a bit of information, including emails and financial information. Identity theft has been a very big growing concern in the United States and really globally, especially with cryptocurrencies, which is a new thing, which I doubt many people that are watching this get into, but it is on the rise. So the identity theft, stolen for fraudulent activities. My mom had an incident where a few years back, Christmas Eve, she went to, I think it was the night before Christmas Eve, actually, she went to use her bank card, and she'd found out she'd been cleaned out. Somebody in Mexico went to Target or some, I don't even know, it's the Target or Applebee's or something, and I must have bought lunch or shoes for half the store. Ransomware attacks is at a significant increase, with various organizations and municipalities are targeted. And the reason why you're seeing that happen is because there's a lot of out-of-date equipment. There are being in the IT field, I can tell you that if I go to an ATM, I can almost tell you based on, like, if you go to Chase, it's a Linux-based system. It's not, not a Windows-based system like we're sitting on right now. But some of the older ATMs for smaller financial institutions actually run on Windows XP, and they're very easily hackable if you have some know-how on how to do that. Obviously, it's very illegal. Obviously, I'm not telling you to go out and try for yourself, but it's very, very easy to do. Does anybody have any questions before we go on? If you do, feel free to unmute, or you can use the chat window, and we'll read the question aloud. We will keep your privacy.
What about Apple Pay and Google Pay? Are those safe?
Well, they're just about as safe as everything else. The question was, if everybody didn't hear, is Apple Pay or Google Pay safe? The answer is not necessarily. If you have your RFID chip, your near field chip in your phone activated, which is what you would use to tap at a gas pump or tap at a drugstore, it could be just as hackable, if you will, as password 123. So there is always, you've got, in today's age, it seems like everybody's got a PayPal account, and everybody's got an Apple Pay account, and this account, and I got an account for this thing, and I got an account for that thing. Well, a needle in a haystack. I mean, somebody's picking up the hay, and at some point somebody's going to pick up a needle, because there's so many needles out there. It's not really losing a needle in a haystack. You're just losing a needle in a field of needles. So, do I think it's safe? No. With the advent and advancement and lack of control of artificial intelligence to determine credit card numbers, expiration dates, and security codes, I think digital conversion to currency is probably not the safest thing, but in 2023 and beyond, what alternative do we have? Any other?
Sorry.
All right, we'll continue.
Weldon?
Yes.
Hi. I don't know if this question is apropos at this point or not, but one time I was hacked in a strange way. One of our sisters received an email with my name, but it did not have my email. They had, Jane, whatever, blah, 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 and it had somebody else's email, and they wanted her to open and look at some nice pictures. Fortunately, she didn't open it. But so what could I do about that? They weren't using my email, but they were using my name.
That is actually something we're going to get into a little later on.
Okay.
But let's address it. We're talking about it. Let's put that on the table. What you're talking about is called phishing. Okay. So what phishing is if somebody sends you an email, and that email doesn't actually come from that person, and it's asking you, the recipient, to do something, that is the definition of phishing. It doesn't have to be illicit or unethical or anything like that. Anything that you open that is not from the intended sender to you, the intended receiver, to do something outside of that email is phishing. Everybody's very aware of the Nigerian prince who died, and somehow you're related, and there's $30 million, and if you send us $30,000 in your social security number, we got you covered. We'll send you that money right away.
But how did they get my name, and then how would that person is in my email list?
So that all comes from Yahoo breaches, AOL breaches, Google breaches, Time Warner or Spectrum or Wide Open West, which is now BreezeLine. So you get all these companies that have these breaches, and when those data breaches happen, the floodgates for that only have to be open for a few seconds to get all of these email addresses out there. Of course, somebody's computer can be compromised, given the amount of computers we see through here, that isn't a very common case for us. We don't see a lot of computers that come in that are spitting out. As a matter of fact, this year, I think we've only seen 2 that have actually had that kind of a breach where something has infected the computer and it was sending out these things. Generally, this stuff is done from a remote location with somebody who wants to control that data so they can intend to do you harm. It's not really unlike trying to fish for your credit card. They're phishing with your email. So I can go out to artificial intelligence and I can do some not so legitimate things, and I can end up with a result like email addresses that are similar to yours, and who knows who that's coming across.
Is there anything that I should do as a person then, like this sister said, I should let everybody know I got hacked?
No, because being hacked, we found is not been necessarily the case. And like I said, in the last calendar, this 2023, the calendar year of 2023, we've only seen 2 computers come through the office out of a lot of computers that have actually been spewing out the requests for the information. But the 2 computers that came in obviously were not the people making the attempt. It was just that their computer was infected because there were some security portholes that were open, and those were compromised because they were out of date systems. And those portals were closed, and their computers were sent on their way, being verified that they were good. But to answer your question a little bit more direct, what should you do if you're getting those emails? Hit the delete key, mark it as spam. If the problem becomes so overwhelming, if you're a Yahoo user or a Hotmail user or an Outlook user and you don't pay for your accounts, the bearer of bad news is going to be on my end today. There's not much you can do about it. There's not a Yahoo support number. I don't care what anybody tells you. There is no phone number. If you're a Yahoo user or an Outlook user or a Gmail user, there is not a public support option available. Mm-hmm. So if you Google a support number for Yahoo and you dial it, that is actually, and in fact, a avenue for you to be, it's a phishing expedition is what we call it. I mean, you're phishing, they're phishing. And what they've done is they've put a website out there that looks like a legitimate Yahoo or Microsoft or Google, Gmail or whoever. And that's how they're getting some of this information. Believe it or not, quite a bit of the computer problems we see, our antivirus that we offer here protects a lot of our customers, and we get notified of that. We generate reports and we monitor what is happening. And if something happens to one customer, we're able to filter down what happens with a particular website if it's compromised, and a particular action somebody may take. So we can protect people based on user action. If there's a problem, we're able to protect against it.
But my computer wasn't hacked. The sister just got an email from somebody else, but they used my name.
Correct. And your computer could have been off. I've had people who have been.
Yeah, it didn't come from me, but they used my name.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunately all too common. I could sit here and show you my inbox all day long with 125 messages an hour. It's
so bottom line, I can't do anything about it except to tell this person, no, I don't send those kinds of emails.
Correct. Have them mark it as spam, have them delete the email, and have them move on. It's kind of like the spam callers calling from a restricted number. None of us can do anything about those.
Correct. Thanks, Weldon. That helps.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions before we go on? All right. So how can I secure my web browsing? A lot of our customers, a lot of the people we help, a lot of the computer problems are self-inflicted. And sometimes you don't know that you're doing something wrong. For example, everybody on this meeting and everybody watching, you've all used Google, or you've used Yahoo or Bing or some search engine out there to look something up. Well, what happens if you go to Google right now and Google has been compromised, and Google has been compromised, just like Experian or Equifax has been compromised. Whenever you visit a website, especially a small, I like to call them the small guys. So like you're looking for a place to go fishing and there's some guy with a fishing website. Well, if you look at their website and you don't see the HTTPS out in front, you'll notice that there's some websites that have a little lock and some that have a little lock with a red line or a little X on the side. That indicates that there is a security certificate installed on the website and that the website is probably secure. Now, of course, security is always a fluid thing. So it could be secured and you still get an infection, but overall, you always want to look for a website that has the HTTPS out front. Whenever you're doing public personal transactions and you're on like a public Wi-Fi, so for instance, if you go to Starbucks, stay away from doing Amazon orders where you're putting your credit card information in, because somebody could be looking over your shoulder, which doesn't even require a computer. And when you're transmitting over a public network, you don't know who's watching and you don't know who has access to that network. So if you put a credit card number in and you hit submit, somebody behind you could see it, somebody monitoring the network could see it, and that can obviously cause you some issues. If you don't know what to do, don't click it, just close out. So strong, unique passwords are a huge, huge thing. You don't want anything that contains your address, nothing that contains your phone number, nothing that contains the last four of your cell phone. You want to make sure that it's got some random numbers in there. You want a couple characters, maybe a $sign, which is a very contentious thing to use in a password these days. So I would stay away from the $sign, because in the coding languages, a $sign would indicate that you're actually trying to hack. So stay away from the $sign. It can be a little bit problematic. Exclamation points, the asterisk, all the keys from 1 to 0 at the top of the keyboard, those are all safe to use. The $sign's fine. Some passwords may not accept when you try to change them. So just kind of stay away from the ones that give you some fuss. Make them unique. Start with a character. Don't reuse your passwords. Keep a handwritten password list if you can keep it in a secure location. And that's probably the best way for you to exercise caution in choosing a password. Emails. We just kind of hammered on the phishing. Avoid opening any emails that you aren't expecting. Don't download attachments that you aren't expecting either. So if somebody sends you something that's in a .zip or a RAR file or a Word document that has like a weird little extension at the end, and you're not expecting it, stay away from it. It's not unheard of for me to get a phone call that says, hey, did you send me a Word document? And of course, we send out a lot of documents to a lot of people. I'm converting a resume for somebody today. I've compressed some pictures for somebody else today into a zip file. But those are expected attachments. So he's safe to open those, obviously, because I sent them with the intention of him receiving them to open them. And there's no malicious anything in there. So obviously he needs to open those pictures. We sent them. Same thing goes for you, though. If you're emailing a friend, maybe shoot a text message. Hey, just want to let you know I sent you an email October 31st at 2:00, and just want to let you know I sent you 3 pictures. That would, just kind of be a proactive way for people to think security when they're opening their own email.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
A lot of times I'll get spam emails, but there's a lot of typographical errors in it. Say Bank of America, but they spell America wrong. And I know immediately that's not them. And I push it to spam if it didn't go there already.
Yeah, and it's important for everybody. And I find it to be kind of a pain, but I am marking things as junk more often now, because it tells my computer, it teaches my computer when I mark it as junk. In the future, if Bank of America is spelled wrong, it goes to my junk folder. But it also tells my email provider, hey, whoever's sending out from this, you need to investigate. So the more you mark something as junk, the more you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping everybody else with your Yahoo email, Yahoo, Gmail, Outlook, whatever you might use.
Mhm.
That's a great point. Spelling, grammatical errors, you know, princes, British royalty that passed away in your past. I love some of these things. They're kind of entertaining to read, really. The FBI is always after me. I don't know why they decide that I'm some kind of a target now, and
Oh, wow.
it's very, very common and very frustrating anymore with a lot of these attacks. But I do suspect, and this is something that I think everybody should be aware of. I'm hammered away at the artificial intelligence thing here. I think you're going to see these emails clean up, and you're going to see a lot better looking spam email. And I think it's going to take a much more refined moment of observation on some of these spam emails. Because if I were a spammer and I intended to do you harm, well, the one thing you want to do is spell it right. I mean, if you're going to spell Bank of America, you better spell it right if you intend to go out and get my credit card information or my bank account information, what have you. So with the advent of artificial intelligence and it being so available right now, even if those things are worded properly and spelled well, be careful on anything you receive that you are not expecting.
Also, I had been deleting my spam, clearing my spam out of my email like once every day or two. And it seemed like the spam was growing. And so I stopped deleting it. And now I delete it maybe once every 2 weeks or so. And it's like 50 or 80, whereas I was getting hundreds during the week. So I don't know what the heck was going on, but I don't worry about it anymore. And I just delete it, when I think about it.
Yeah, it's okay to leave the spam, the junk mail in the junk folder, because if you receive an email, it takes up fractions of fractions of a percentage of your hard drive. So if you were to get in 100,000 emails, it's not taking up a full percentage of 100,000 emails doesn't take up, I think, 2% of your hard drive if you have a small hard drive. So if you have a large hard drive, hundreds of thousands of emails is nothing. So don't be afraid to mark what you need to in your inbox as junk, and then let it sit in the junk folder. There's no reason to worry about clearing space off your computer. A lot of people are accessing either directly through the web, like AOL or Hotmail.com, or which is now Outlook.com, obviously. But that doesn't take up room on your computer. It takes up room on their server. And when they want to deal with the junk mail problem, tying up the space on their server, they're going to figure out a way to get this to be their problem instead of your problem. So keep marking them. I urge everybody, keep marking the junk is junk. It's junk, and move on with it. So keep up the good work on that. Online safe communication. We have one more slide after this, so I'll go ahead and play this video.
If you've been following the news, you've probably seen alarming stories about an army of angry and vicious video gamers marching under a banner called Gamergate. Well, according to these reports, this mob will stop at nothing to defend its heteronormative privilege. Well, is this an accurate picture of Gamergate? I'll consider the evidence next on The Factual Feminist. Gamergate is a Twitter hashtag, and it attracts gamers from all over the world, males and females, liberals, conservatives, black, white, straight, gay, trans. Some gamers identify with the hashtag because they believe there's too much corruption in gaming. Others are weary of cultural critics who evaluate video games through the prism of gender politics. Now, I discovered Gamergate when I was working on my recent video about sexism in games. Now, in that video, I pointed out that the evidence does not support the claim that video games cause violence or misogyny. I mean, gaming has surged since the early 1990s, but youth crime has plummeted. And millennials who were born and raised in video game nation, they are far less sexist, homophobic, bigoted than older generations. Now, I deplore the fact that some feminist critics and game developers have been threatened. And in the earlier video, I pointed out that gamers were being blamed for issuing death threats, even though no one knows who sent them. Well, since that video, I've learned that several people inside Gamergate, including 2 women, have received death threats too. Many in the media are treating Gamergate as a simple damsel in distress story. Well, damsels are in distress, but they are on both sides of the controversy. Gamergaters were amazed and grateful for my defense of their hobby, because for years they've been disparaged as nerds, shut-ins, and proto-school shooters. Now the critics have added misogynist and death threateners to the mix. Writers at popular game websites like Kotaku and Polygon, they did a good job defending video games from the false charge that they foster violence. But when gender activists came along, accusing games of creating misogyny, these journalists eagerly jumped on the bandwagon, and they were not happy with my video. Colin Campbell, the senior reporter at Polygon, for example, called me a reactionary, and he suggested that my indifference to sexism in videos was a, quote, irresponsible abrogation of our shared humanity. I don't doubt Mr. Campbell's sincerity. Many games do depict horrific violence and mistreatment of women. But remember, there is vastly more violence and mistreatment of men. Now, there are horrible scenes in video games like Grand Theft Auto, and these upset me, but I also cringe at the violence in television shows like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos. I mean, I'd rather play games with themes from Downton Abbey or The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
What is the weekend?
But my game and film preferences cannot be generalized and certainly can't be a basis for condemning others. I mean, behavior should be guided by Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, but the rules of the imagination are more permissive. Would-be game reformers need to connect the games they criticize to negative world consequences. They need to show, not dogmatically assume, that video games make people sexist. The burden of proof rests with them. And intuitions that a certain game or book or film, comic book, song, that these are psychologically damaging and socially corrosive, this is rarely borne out in reality.
So I played that because there is one theme that is there's a few things that they've kind of touched upon that were there's a lot of bullying that happens with online communication and in gaming. Actually, if you've ever been in a if you've been around somebody who has an Xbox or a PlayStation or even on a computer and they're gaming, you know, anything can be said. There's no moderation to that. Additionally, there's other dangers that are happening with some online communication in games. Something called swatting. I don't know if anybody's heard the term swatting. Kind of like you're swatting a fly, but it's SWAT, like the SWAT team. What they're doing is you could be on playing a game, and usually it's some kind of a first person shooter. And what'll happen is while you're on doing that, somebody calls and says, hey, so-and-so is locked in whatever residence or business, and they're holed up and they've got a hostage. Well, what's going to happen? SWAT team comes out and they take that threat seriously. It's called swatting. You've heard about quite a few online bullying events happening that ends in a child or an adolescent committing suicide because of the bullying instance. Safe online communication, please be mindful. You know, if you've got children or grandchildren even, remember that it's not a moderated society online. You got a lot of keyboard commandos, as I like to call them. So sometimes the best thing to do is just to get away from some of the keyboard commandos out there. And then in closing, does anybody have any questions? All right, so if
Yes,
you have problems, go ahead.
Quickie, the Zoom number that we use, it's going to change every week to get into your class?
It will. We'll send out an email just before your the next Zoom class that we have. If you go to weldonpc.com and you click on class schedule across the top, you'll see our list of classes. And if you want to take our next one, just go to the website, click on the class that you'd like to take or classes you'd like to take, and it will, you can register for each one of those.
Okay, because my church, we have Zoom and we use the same number every week.
Yeah, we do it different, and it's really a security thing, because that way the passcode, the link always changes. That way we don't get anybody in here kind of spamming, because we've had some in the past, especially in the height of COVID, we had some people breaking into our Zoom meetings and writing pictures and saying that we're really off.
All right, great, thank you.
Just want to say thanks, Weldon. I think this is terrific. I can't beat all of them, but I learned a lot today. Thanks much.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody. If you have any problems or questions, give us a call.
Will do. Bye-bye.